This series of lectures on reputation management is going to have two parts, and this is going to be a little different because I don't have a group going to do the class discussion on this, because these are related directly to our guest speaker, Brian Linden from the Linden Center in Xizhou in mainland China. And I'm going to give you a little background on this, which I hope you will have seen before you hear Brian in class. It might help prompt some questions and some things that you might have to ask him about this particular topic area. So when we're thinking about reputation management today, we have so many different places that we're being evaluated and reviewed, and you're doing this in your class preparation assignment number one. Okay, whether it's in the States, we have Yelp, you have Zomato, Tripadvisor. That's going to be a key one that we're going to focus on here. So when we think about the world's best hotel review sites, you see overwhelmingly Tripadvisor at the top, Google, Trivago, others on there, Facebook, and so on. But Tripadvisor is a key impact for a hotel in terms of how they are rated, no doubt about it. Thinking about this, a few years back I was in Guilin for a conference, and I stayed at the Shangri-La Hotel. And what I looked at here was these were their website pictures. Beautiful, right? Great photography, spent a lot of money putting those together. These were the photos that were taken by guests. Now, also, very nice, showed the beauty of the facility. It's a great hotel. My question to you, you have an option here. Are you going to look at, and making your decision on where you're going to stay in a place that you've never been before, are you going to look at the stock photos that have been done by the hotel? Or are you going to look at what's been done on Tripadvisor? I think that's a rhetorical question, right? You're going to go by Tripadvisor. You want to see what people actually experienced in the process of things. It's a different environment today. We can spend a lot of money on the marketing side of things trying to show our servicescape, but the reality is the servicescape shown by the customer is going to give the best representation of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish. So if you look at the influence areas here in terms of guest experience on the scale of 1 to 6, the entrance lobby and the rooms and bathrooms, and the entrance lobby, those are the things that come off first. So what about the 5 dimensions here? So just back to the sense again. Do you want to put the right sense in the rooms and the lobby? Then you come down to the corridors, are also up there fairly high. Meeting space is not quite as high on that list. Even the pool and spa area, maybe because people haven't seen it as much in the process, but I think the first impressions, right? First impressions, that's the influence areas, the first impressions. These are some facts from Tripadvisor. I won't go through all these. You can read through these, but look at how many are visited, how many are reviewed. This was a couple years old in terms of 200 million reviews. It's probably far much higher than that today. How many people contributed down here? Candid travel photos. Oops, sorry about that. Once again, my mouse is moving faster than me. My mouse and my mouth don't always go together, right? 19 million candid travel photos. 19 million candid travel photos posted on a regular basis. So that tells you that these can have some incredible impacts on how people are going to perceive you, what their expectations are going to be before they ever arrive. Tripadvisor Mobile, 82 million people have downloaded various Tripadvisor apps, and that's 150% year-over-year increase. So apps are definitely the most used today in terms of what we're looking at, and I'm sure in your generation that's an even higher percentage that we're looking at in terms of the use of apps. So how are we viewed on those apps? What's there? We need to know what's on there. Responding to online reviews in their advice. Okay, first off, the word good is a common one in many negative reviews. Right? So if you look just for good, because they're often comparing it to bad, okay? The good versus the bad, what you expected. That's an important element to understand. Contrary to popular wisdom, it might not be the worst thing for business to not respond to a negative review. There's a wide variety of responses, so sometimes maybe it isn't the best thing to respond, at least not to respond in defensive aspect. The best managed response to negative reviews come from companies that view it not as solving a problem, but as view it not merely as solving a problem, but the responses to the way they reinforce the brand. In other words, we appreciate your comment very much. here's what we're doing in order to make sure that our brand is reinforced in what we're doing to those customers. So loyal customers, next point, often police negative reviews themselves, right? They actually make comments about that wasn't my experience. I've seen that happen. I've done that. I've said that wasn't my experience. I, by the way, post, as I probably told you earlier on in the semester, quite frequently in terms of where I've been and what I do. Review writers might represent as much as 10% of the company's base, but not necessarily typical, and that's one of the challenges, but they certainly are vocal, right? And whether it's Tripadvisor, Yelp, Amazon, whatever it might be in the process, they skew towards the positive, not the negative. And that you might not think that's true, but it is in terms of where they're at. That's actually the case. So, management responses. 88% of users say reviews impact their accommodation choices, right? 80% of users believe a hotel that responds to reviews cares more about guests. 80%. So would you respond? Think about that in terms of your class preparation assignment. Your class preparation assignment. Yes. In terms of what you actually found or didn't find. 69% of users are less likely to book a hotel that leaves aggressive, defensive management responses. So in other words, don't react. Don't react. Just be positive. And 60% of users would rather book at a hotel that responds to reviews. So do you want responses? Sounds to me like these numbers are certainly in favor of doing just that, doesn't it? Looking at the responses from Tripadvisor, and this was a few years back, I'm sure it hasn't changed a great deal. Look at the responses in terms of the average here. 3.8 of a review rating is 0% response, right? Recent reviews in the average rating. The 3.8 is 0%. 4.04 average for review rating, that's 5 to 40% response rate. 40 to 65%, it's a 4%, and 65% above 4.15. So what does that tell you? The more responses that you get, the likelihood of having a higher rating. The more responses, the higher the rating. And looking at what's important, number of photos, total number of reviews, management responses in the past, and number of views in the past year. That's what people tend to go in terms of order. Photos, number one. Encourage people to post photos. I've seen this, hotels encouraging people to post photos. Here's an example of a positive response, right? So, thank you very much for sharing your travel experience you had with our expeditions, right? The fact that you mentioned the tours were without doubt the best run tours you've been on means a lot to us. We love to read that you enjoyed all the destinations and activities 100% without having to think about any of the logistics. That the itinerary suited you perfectly, that you loved the restaurants we picked, and that you had a lot of fun because that was exactly what we wanted for your visitors. What do you think of that? Pretty outstanding, right? That's a great positive type review. Great positive type review. So the fact that you responded means something. Look back to those numbers that we just talked about. So let's take the Linden Center, which you're going to hear about more from Brian. So I'm going to upstage him slightly by talking a little bit about it beforehand. Many different awards. And this is just a handful of the awards that they have won. At one point they were the top rated small hotel in all of China. In fact, at one point they were rated with the Hong Kong hotels, and the Hong Kong hotels said, that's not fair, you can't rate us against them. It's only 17 rooms, so they feel that's not fair. But the Linden Center is a beautiful place, wonderful place. I love it. I love Brian. He's got so much enthusiasm. I know you're going to enjoy him. There's a video. I put a video link on the ELMS for you to look at, but this is the beauty of what it is. It's the country house, if you will, in a rice paddy in a beautiful foothills of the Himalayas. How do they portray the servicescape? These were actual Facebook type postings on here. What are they showing? They're showing the local artisan's painting. So what they're trying to show you here is authenticity. What they've actually done is incorporate the Bai culture by showing the Bai people actually doing the painting. So it's authentic. It's showing you their servicescape as one of authenticity. When you go there and stay there, you're going to be staying in the culture of the region. The TripAdvisor dialogues, and I prompt you to read through these and Brian's comments, where he's a strong believer in responding to people who give positive reviews, as well as those who might say negative. In fact, one of the challenges that I'm sure he will talk about is that sometimes the expectation from the mainland Chinese in particular was that they were going to go to a facility that had TV and brass and glass and marble and all that because of where they're rated. But in fact, that's not what they are. They don't have TVs. Now, they do have beautiful rooms and rainforest showers, all that kind of things, but that's not the kind of facility they are. So they actually used to send out, and probably still do, letters in advance to people who, when they booked from mainland China, so that they would have the right expectation and therefore a positive perception when they finished. A staff blog in Chinese. I don't know if any of you read Chinese. I haven't gotten to know you, but if you did, you might know what this is about. But this is one of their employees writing on a staff blog, showing this to customers, particularly if you happen to be a Chinese customer. It gives you a feeling of what the local people are like and who's going to serve you. And that gives you a little background on them. We'll talk a little bit more on service reputation in the next set of slides.